hope you all had a great Valentine's Day, by the way.
I like coffee with my coffee. I'm a no bullshit kind of girl. No room for creamer or that vanilla stuff either. I need something real to fill my cup.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Isabel, and today we're talking about my very first 5-star book of 2021. The Midnight Library by Haig was published back in August 2020, and since then it has received only praises. If you follow the Goodreads awards each year, you might know that for 2020, the Midnight Library and Anxious People were competing against each other, and they were very close, with the Midnight Library resulting as the winner. This is one of the main reasons why it sparked my interest, because if you know, Anxious People was one of my best books of 2020, one of my favorite books since then. So I just needed to read it, but at the same time I was scared of reading it because I thought I wouldn't like it, or that I would like it too much, or I don't know. I thought that maybe if they were both against each other, it's because they were very similar, and I don't know why I was scared of reading it, but I was intimidated. But I did it, and I'm here to recommend it to you. So what can I tell you about this novel, right? The Midnight Library is the story about adult life. With that statement, we do really need to understand what is the most salient experience in average adult life. And sadly, it is guilt and regrets. I think I do agree with the author on this one, that you don't have to have an extreme horrible life to kind of regret the decisions that you've taken to be in this position. I think we're always wondering what could have happened if we had taken the other option.
That job, if we would have continued with that relationship, or going out with this person, or moving to this city, whatever it was.
It kind of weighs on you as this missed opportunity, and we often think that would have made us happier. I'm sure that you and I are already thinking about several regrets, but this story doesn't have me as the protagonist, although it could really be you. Honestly, we have this protagonist that we really don't get to know a lot. We just get to know the things that she didn't do. We don't know her in this intimate sense that we're with her for a lot. She kind of seems like this plain person with a lot of regrets and that cares about letting other people down. Her name is Nora, and she's at a very low point in her life. She's, I think, 35. She's single. Both of her parents have died. Her only other family member, that is her brother, won't talk to her anymore. She lost her job, and before that it wasn't really a career anyways, and her cat just died. So you see, she's having a hard time. The type of life that Nora lives, it also reminds you that even if you're privileged enough to have all your basic needs covered, you also have other needs, spiritual and emotional. Your failure of fulfilling those dreams or things that you were interested in because you try to go for a safer route is what ends up in a life like Nora's. A life that it has no fulfillment, that has no love, and it has no direction. Like, Nora's life is not going anywhere, and it really hasn't in a long time. She's obviously very tired and very depressed, so one day she decides that she doesn't want to continue anymore. However, between life and death, there is a library. In this place, she can take any book, and it's gonna show her a life that she could have lived if she would have taken a different decision, and the multiple outcomes that that decision could have brought to her life. It is up to her to continue browsing or to give up. The first step in this library is to look at your book of regrets, and that is the hardest thing that she will ever have to do, but is the roadmap for her adventure. That is our premise, that is our main character, that is our dilemma, right? The good old concept of the road not taken, with a sprinkle of Borges' short story of La Biblioteca de Babel. They really merge into this novel in a beautiful way without being preachy or condescending to Nora or you. And I think it makes sense because we want it to make sense. It's attractive to think that we could do it differently or see that and learn that maybe we were completely wrong and that was the wrong thing to do, and thank God you didn't do that. Pretty soon we are sucked into the universe of possibilities that Nora has in front of her, and or just go along with her while thinking about the things that you will potentially want to change in your life or that are making you feel like you took the wrong road. Several reviewers about this book call it a feel-good novel, and I personally don't agree with that because the majority of the lives that Nora encounters make her feel failure and make her experience disappointment. And I'm not saying that it can be a feel-good book if there are bad things happening, but I think it's not a book that makes you feel good. It confronts you with feeling bad, and it's trying to teach you how to move on from those things. It has this spark of realism that is much needed when you talk about missed opportunities, because those only exist in the universe of our mind, and we always fantasize about those things. So those sparks of realism in it really let you ground your thinking about what could have happened. And the search that Nora goes in, it's deeper than let's go find the best life. It's more like let's find the most truthful version of yourself. And for that, you kind of need to find yourself first. Because it doesn't matter what she chooses or if she says, I want to be successful at the typical successful definition that you can think of. If it's not truthful to herself, then she won't be satisfied and she won't be really happy. And that's when you start thinking of what happiness actually is and what is not. Of course, I'm going to keep the ending of this novel for myself. We can talk about it when you finish. But I'm just going to say that it makes sense. Therefore, you could say this predictable, but not in a way that lets you down. I don't think it's a failure of the novel that you already kind of see where it's going to end. But I want to put it out there for those of you who really like big twists at the end. When you are reading those last chapters, you know where we're going to end. And I think it's a refreshing moment because at the beginning of the novel, neither you or Nora knew what was going to happen to her. She didn't know where her life was going. And now she has a sense of purpose or direction, or at least just energy to either keep going or stop or pick a life, or she knows her next move, or she knows that the next move is going to be meaningful, almost as if she were playing chess. So that feeling of security at the ending juxtaposes the Nora that we first encounter. So maybe it's not that every book needs to have a big twist at the end, it just needs to make sense to what you are experiencing while reading it. So what genre is The Midnight Library really? I will say that it's fiction, contemporary adult, obviously, magical realism, I don't know, maybe fantasy, but it's not an adventure book. There's no a lot of adventure, there's a lot of introspection, if that makes sense to you. I believe it's a perfect balance between like real reality and this magical opportunity that only very few people have, because we're limited to our human vision, so we don't get to see those things in a meta position when we can see the multi-opportunities that were missed or the multi-versions of ourselves. My experience reading it was that it is very fast to read. It's fast-paced, it's not complicated. You understand it as Nora understands how the library works. So it is explained to you. I think that some of the things that I appreciated were the acute description and perspective of mental health issues and how regrets can really latch on your back, making you feel heavy and difficult to wander the earth with them on top of you. I mean, our protagonist was very interested in philosophy. She studied it in university. So that's the way the author kind of drops different worldviews and perspectives about life and their outcomes, that they were kind of dropped on you over and over again, but it made sense. Maybe it could have been done without her having studying philosophy, but it makes sense. It's like when you read a novel and the character is very into literature, so they start mentioning authors or dropping hints over here and there. It's kind of like those things, but I think it was done tastefully. And overall, it enriches your reading experience, in my opinion. With all of this, I still prefer Anxious People. But now I find it unfair that they were competing against each other. I guess it's because they're in the same section and genre, but in my very unprofessional but highly important opinion, the Midnight Library will remain like one of those pieces of literature that are timeless, and that every time that one picks it up, it's the perfect time for you. That is the magic of the library, and that is the magic of this book in particular. You only get there when you're ready, I feel. And when more time comes and the hype of the book dies down, I think it's still going to be very loved and very recommended among people. And I mean, that's it. I don't want to spoil you. Go read it. If you already read it, tell me what you think. Tell me what you enjoyed. And let's have the discussion. Thank you for watching. Keep reading. And when you're not, follow me on all my social media linked down below. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!